Hello, I'm Sharon Gissy, and I'm the organizer of the Mental Filmness Film Festival. And today we have the honor of having with us Issa and Susan from the documentary Mad Love. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much for having us. We're big fans.
Aw, thanks. No, I feel like I know you guys. It's such a intimate film that really gives a window into your lives that I feel like I kind of know you guys, and
Okay.
it's such a beautiful story. The way you met, just over 15 years, you kind of met.
25.
Oh, it's only 5. What?
No, 20, no, 25 years.
Oh, 25.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why, that was the impetus for us making the film, to celebrate our 25th year and, to kind of give a little bit of encouragement to people who may be afflicted with, or not, or just in love and have mental health issues. And we were always discouraged, when we were first dating, like, don't date him, or don't date her, or, he's got a mental illness, or, this, that, the other thing. So we always want to encourage ourselves and encourage others to kind of like let love find the path,
Yeah, and it's so inspiring, and you guys just seem like you've overcome so much. And I wondered, you kind of touched on this in the film, but how you kind of coexist with each other's whatever issues may arise from that, and how you help each other through your struggles. How does that work?
Well, it's been helpful, really, because whenever either of us are feeling symptomatic, not that, I'm medicated, and Sue has had her issues with medication, but we know what we're going through. So we try to be as supportive as possible, maybe more supportive than someone who isn't familiar with the problems with mental health issues would be.
Yeah, I think the benefit of meeting each other in a locked up setting already provides a lot of empathy, because in those situations, as you probably know, it's the patients that help each other more than the staff. And sometimes the professionals help very little in those situations, and you support each other to get out, whether you see other patients when you leave or not in the hospitals, and you do create bonds within that time. Ours just happened to extend a bit longer than most.
It's a long bond.
And we have our art, so we have an outlet. We both thank God that we have a way to express ourselves, because even in your darkest moments, you can find some relief, through your art, whatever that may be. So that's really the message of the film, is love and art and how that heals.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And that was another thing I want to ask about, is how your kind of artistic partnership works, because it seemed like at one point, Susan, Issa was kind of guiding you and prompting you to make art, and now you make art together. And what is that partnership like?
Well, actually, I started working as an artist since I was 3 years old, and most of the time we weren't able to work together because I'm a very messy artist and Issa's very clean when he paints. So we have two different ways we create. And it took us many years to really think about painting, which we paint more now together than we used to. And the film stuff, I was always like not inclined to put my life out there so much in film. And I did my own stuff. Like I did my solo play. I did my first documentary film on myself. And I wanted control. Yeah. I needed control of my life because I did pull out of an HBO documentary because I didn't feel that control. And now, when you're editing and you're doing your own filming, you have more control. And that's the great thing about being an artist, that you rather than give someone else that control and, giving you a voice, you give yourself a voice. And so we argue in a friendly way behind the scenes, because we both are very strong. I think we're strong artists, and we're very opinionated, and you know, now after 26 years, I can say, hey, Issa, I want this, that, and the other. And even if he's technically sitting down and editing, I'm like, I don't want this, I want that. Let's try this. Like, I'm more the type that likes to try things. And I love the process of art and filmmaking. Whereas, and I still love this about Issa, he has an idea and it comes out just the way he wants it. So he has a vision and he follows through, but I'm more experimental, I think. So sometimes we argue about that. And at first I didn't want to do the filming, but I needed more control over. The only thing we ended up arguing about is like certain photographs. I like certain photographs over some other ones. And he's like, oh, it doesn't matter about the photos. And I was just like a stickler for certain things. But yeah, I mean, we have a great partnership, you know, and we get along best when we're working together as artists. That's when we really thrive, is when we're throwing things at each other. It's great.
And when we first met 25 years ago, I introduced her to this art space, and it was a huge kind of spooky, decommissioned building in a mental hospital. So she was, you know, she was a little nervous maybe, and I was feeling each other out, and there was a little bit of chemistry. So yeah, I'm glad that we captured that audio that a friend of ours had recorded for us when he was interviewing Susan, of her explaining that process. And it's, you know,
because we were on the grounds and we were alone and we had just met. And can you just imagine someone you meet for the first time and you're just venturing out on these abandoned asylum grounds and you don't know the person, so it's like a leap of faith, you know? And I mean, I'm with a guy that really just wanted to hold my hands and maybe dance with me. But at the time you have to wonder, like, well, I'm alone with a guy that I never met, and we're in abandoned buildings. There's no staff in most of these buildings. And so, you know, you're a little hesitant. And I didn't know, like, you know, what the rules were. It's like, no, you can paint on the walls. It's okay, you know?
Yeah. So that's what that guidance was.
Yeah.
Just letting her know that she can feel free in this space to just like throw the paint on the wall.
Right. It's a great program. I'm supposed to go back soon. So I'll look forward to it.
Cool, yeah, and you guys have worked on music together as well, is that right? Or at least you did for the film?
Right now, actually, we're at Fountain House Gallery, which is the premier gallery for artists with mental illness in New York City. It's on 48th and 9th in Midtown, and we do 6 shows a year. We have a show up right now called Water. With as far as the music, I say Issa's more the musician than me. I mean, I write lyrics, but I don't have a musical ear. I think that's really Issa's realm right there.
There's a song in the film that she did the lyrics for that were actually like poetry from her teenage years.
High school poetry.
But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And she granted me the permission to kind of do something with it. So I put some music behind it and it turned out to be one of the songs at the very end of the film. And we've worked a little bit over the years doing that kind of thing, taking lyrics that she's done and I'll throw some music on it. Now I have a little miniature recording studio, a portable recording studio, and I'll lay down the tracks. So yeah, it's been fun, and she's a wonderful collaborator. We collaborated in just about all forms: film, art, music. We have 2 cats that we collaborate with. One is her cat, one is my cat, and we kind of I feel blessed to have a home, because when I was in the hospital for so many years, I was in there for like almost 20 years. I didn't think I'd ever get out, or if I did get out, would have a home. It's one thing about having a residence or being placed in a place where you kind of live, but it's different to have a home. You know, that has that warmth of a home. It's semantics, but it's very important semantics. And to have a partner and cats and
candles. I go crazy with the candles.
The decor we have. And
this one's like one of my favorite. It's like I buy a lot of these. It's
in
the supermarket. Yeah.
I have a couple of those too. Yeah.
Great.
And we have vintage things. So we're just looking at the Beethoven thing in your background. We have vintage things too. So we've decorated a nice apartment in Queens to be our home, in our home studio. And so it's just, I feel blessed beyond measure to have her in my life and to continue on artistically and to make this film and to share it with an audience, not just the audience, but an audience who may have a sympathetic resonance with where we're coming from.
Yeah, and in 2020, you know, it was hard for everybody with the pandemic, and I was doing a lot of painting, and I tried to encourage Issa to do a lot of painting, so we ended up doing some collaborations, but it was really Issa's idea to do the film, and, you know, I was a bit resistant, and then I finally was like, yeah, let's do it, you know? So once I saw that he was excited about something and wanted to work, I knew that that was the way to go to support him. And also it's something we talked about anyway, telling our story, and I think this was like the perfect opportunity to do it ourselves.
And like she said, it was a question of becoming excited about something, because during the pandemic, as you know, a lot of people, not only just artists but people in general, just kind of pulled back and went to this malaise, you know, this feeling of I don't want to do nothing. You know,
and the pandemic hit our neighborhood first. Elmhurst Hospital.
Elmhurst,
we were at the epicenter, where the doctor had sent that viral video from the New York Times, and we were just like, oh my God, how could we not get this? We live in such a dense neighborhood, and it's right here.
So there was a little bit of depression that came about, but just getting involved in this project brought me out of that kind of malaise and depression, and just got me involved in doing something I really believed in.
That's great. So I did want to ask, who was that man behind the camera? Because he said he was like a longtime friend.
Yes. That's Gio Geller. He provided a lot of the footage of us talking, and he's very mysterious in that he rarely, if ever, wants to be seen. But he loves to be heard. He loves to be a vital part of the conversation, but he doesn't want to be seen for various reasons. That's Gio Geller. He's a documentary filmmaker, an old friend. He supported us for many years. And he's kind of gone AWOL over the last year or so, but he'll pop up again. But we also want to thank Gregor Collins, who provided some footage of Susan at the gallery at the very end, that tail end piece. He kind of provided the end for our film.
Yeah, that was so nice of him to film me, because that was like 2 years before we even thought of doing the film, and he just blessed us with the footage and using it. So
and create a wrap up for the whole film. Yeah. So he's very, and he'll be tuning in as well. He's very excited about Mental Filmness, and he loves the name. And
yeah, he's really cool.
So he'll be tuning in. He'll get a lot of his people to tune in as well. So that'll be a lot of people tuning in, I'm sure. So.
And Gio, we love you too. We didn't talk in a while. What if you're out there?
Yeah. So no, that's great. I feel like you guys, you were kind of mentioning how you have a home now, and you just seem so stable. And I feel like it's a really inspiring example to people who may be struggling. And I know you're both kind of big mental health advocates too, right? So how do you kind of carry that message to other people?
Just have hope. From my own personal standpoint, a lot of it is acquiring insight. And that sounds like an easy thing to say, but a very hard thing to do. But just understanding that after so many years of being in and out of the system, or being homeless, or having run-ins with the police, you've got to maybe come to understanding that maybe what you're doing isn't working. And maybe acquiescing just a little bit and trying a little bit of medication. Just trying it, and it's changed my life. There were many years when I was in the hospital, I was fighting the system and fighting the medication and not being compliant, not taking all of it, biting it in thirds, biting it in half, spitting out the rest, and it didn't work out for me. And then finally, after it not working out for a long time, I surrendered and it's been a triumph. It's been a surrender and a triumph for me. So I mean, taking my med diligently and being on point with it has just improved my life to the point where I can talk to you and be at a film festival and have a home and be responsible and pay my bills and have a fruitful life. So I mean, but still be an advocate enough so that I belong to organizations that are fervently anti-psychiatry, you know. So it's like you can have that balance where you can say there are problems with the system, yes, but certain elements of it has enriched my life. So it's never a blanket statement. It's always like variables or shades of gray, you know. So yeah, being an advocate has helped, and not giving up hope, never giving up hope.
Yeah, for me personally, the system didn't help me and the medication didn't help, and I spent 30 years in and out of hospitals. But the good thing is I found a psychoanalyst that I really clicked with, and had a sliding scale fee.
That she could afford.
Yeah, that I could afford, that he really gave me a deal. And he realized like at that point I had spent 20 years in and out. And yeah, I mean, I just got really lucky through the kindness of someone really taking the time to, I mean, this guy makes $200 an hour. He doesn't need my money. So it wasn't about the money. It was really about investing in it. And I'm really grateful because the 11 years I spent really saved my life. So I'm still in therapy with him. So that's the thing that's kept me afloat, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. It's not a one approach fits everyone. Some people really click with therapy, and other people, medication seems to help more. Art therapy is really helpful for a lot of people. So
yes. Being able to express yourself unfettered, you know, art has really helped a lot too.
Yeah. And I know you taught art when you were in the facility, right? Did you teach art classes, or?
I wouldn't call it teaching art classes, as just being a facilitator and being helpful and being there for anybody who needed me for anything. Well, if there may have been a computer issue that I could have helped them with. There could have been any number of things that if I could help, I just availed myself to help people. And I'm a quick study. So I mean, I went to art school, so I've acquired some knowledge about certain techniques that I could help you with maybe. So I wouldn't say I was a teacher, but I just was a facilitator of whatever needed to be done at this program that I belonged to, the Living Museum. So yeah, I just want to be helpful, and wanted to provide the help that at times I felt I didn't get, you know? So that's how you that's become the best helper, is to provide the help that you didn't get and give people the help that you wish you had, you know? And so that's always how I try to approach things, you know? And help in talking to the guys on the wards who now say, how do I get out? How'd you do it? How'd you do it? I tell them, you know, save your money, because in the end, it was my selling my artwork and acquiring enough money to get a legal team and a couple of doctors to testify on my behalf that got me out of the hospital. So it's like, save your money any way you can, because ultimately that may be the only way you can get out. But also, you know, compliance is important, and compliance doesn't necessarily mean giving up, but just you know, just being not so much of a problem where, you know, it's impossible for you to be even seen as somebody who could be worked with, you know. Yeah. It's also a strategy. That's how I looked at it.
So yeah, I mean, obviously art has been a really big part of both of your lives. And I was curious, like, what are some of your inspirations when it comes to art? It seems like, well, just again, from the little bit I saw in the film, Issa, you have almost like more of a pop culture kind of.
Yeah, I've devoured, yeah. I've devoured pop culture over the last 50 years, and so I'm regurgitating it now with a sort of like a 21st century sensibility. I'm tweaking pop culture, which is kind of where things are right now, and it's great. Like the whole meta movement, where everything is kind of like a commentary on what we've taken in politically as well. So that's kind of what I do. What are your influences?
You know, I'm more of like, I guess what people said I'm more instinctual because I'm self-taught. I mean, I still draw with crayons and stuff. The same when I was 3 years old. I love crayons and markers and acrylic. And really art has just been the thing to go to instead of like, you know, going down other dark paths, shall we say. But it really helps with a lot of my symptoms and just like, I mean, it's very impulsive when I work. So some things are a little more worked out. And lately I've been doing the Octopus series, which is, I had a vision or a hallucination. I wasn't sure, I was afraid when it happened, but and then later that week, I also had a dream about an octopus and I realized that it was, you know, it was like a spiritual path that I was meant to go on. And the octopus is like a spiritual entity in my work. And I've been doing a lot of that whole series, which is like a lot of hand sewn fabric over mixed media like acrylic, and I use a lot of text in my work and writing, or kind of like stream of conscious writing in the background. Some of it you could read, some of it you can't. Yeah, I mean, it's just very like secrets, but not secrets sometimes.
Instinctual, right? Instinctual.
Yeah, it's more, I go more with the emotion and the rawness of it. And I think that's just how I've always worked, you know. And I never studied art. I actually studied acting. So my dream was to be an actor when I was 13 years old. And I followed through with it, and I've done some acting. And I miss it right now, but with the pandemic, I'm kind of skeptical of going back to theater, even though all my friends are back. And I'm not, I miss them, but it's something I'm debating right now.
You get out of the house.
Yeah, because you know, that right when the pandemic hit, the play that I was working on was at Theater for the New City, and we were the last play to close. And even while we were there the last week, we were like, we shouldn't be here. So at least I thought that. So theater has always been a part of my life, and I really miss it. It's all just therapy, you know, and it's a social interaction I think that I need. Otherwise, I'm just home under the covers with my cat, you know, and it's easy for me to get depressed and have anxiety and be afraid to go out. And then, you know, acting and art just forces me to kind of like channel all that, you know.
Cool.
So I think, you know, I think that's another message. Like, you know, you don't have to go to school to be an artist. You could take a pen and right here and a piece of paper and just write it down. And no one has to see. It's about getting your feelings out and trying not to edit yourself. Of course, with the film, we edit where you're making choices. But I think, you know, we had a lot of B-roll too, and it's fun to kind of have all this extra footage and go in any direction you want. And we definitely made a choice to not go too deep into the trauma, because I'm writing my memoir, and Issa actually already wrote his memoir.
Oh.
And it's great. It's called The Hospital Always Wins. If you want to know more about Issa's story, it's a great book. It's a great read. And I kind of tend to use my writing to go with more of the trauma kind of stuff that I didn't really want to go too deep in with the film. So I think I had some anxiety coming in, like, oh boy, I hope they don't ask me this A, B, and C in the film. And he's like, oh no, they won't. You know how to deal with it. I'm like, yeah, you know, I guess I do. You know, but sometimes if you're caught off guard, it's like, I don't want to talk about that right now. Save that for therapy, you know?
Yeah. And I felt like this film was really more about your art and the connection between you two, really.
Yeah, we wanted the focus to be more uplifting about love and art, and not so focused on like the
using
background.
love to overcome all the obstacles.
We didn't want to get too focused on diagnoses and why we were there. And I gave up probably a little bit more than Issa, a little bit more about my life, you know, like losing my twin brother and stuff like that to a drug overdose, and just, you know, very like on the surface. But that's the great thing about having control over telling your stories. You get to go in any direction you feel comfortable with, you know?
Yeah. Oh, well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up now. It's
Okay.
time. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about the film or your current projects or anything?
It's gonna be screening all fall. We really appreciate Mental Filmness. Love the name. We want to say hello to all the Chicago peeps out there and all the nationwide and global, hopefully, peeps who peep in and peep the film and peep the festival. And I'll be checking in to see some of the other films because they do look very interesting. And thank God we have organizations like yourselves to kind of shine a light on the unrepresented and the unsung, you know, and to allow us to sing just for a little while. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's really lovely, and thank you too for sharing your story. I think it's very inspiring, and I'll be really excited to see what you guys keep doing with your art.
Yes, we'll keep in touch. We will keep in touch.
Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
The film's Mad Love. Make sure you check that one out.
Yes, mad love.
Good night, you two.
Good night.